Welcome to Threshold, a place where we explore the sacred in the ordinary and the beauty in the in-between. I'm Molly Wilcox. I'm a wife, a mom, a writer, and your guide as we step over life's thresholds together. Whether you've been reading my newsletter for years or you're just discovering Threshold here, I'm so glad that you're listening. Together, we reflect on faith, creativity, and the small but meaningful ways we're being transformed in the everyday. Let's dive into this week's reflection. I want to start today's episode with a quick trigger warning. This post is going to describe my recent miscarriage. Unfortunately, my husband and I lost a baby in April of this year, and I do share some medical details. So if that's something that's not for you today, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to not listen. And I also wanted to share that I wrote this post while I was still miscarrying. My baby had passed away in my womb, but we were waiting for things to start and finish. I am publishing it now because I've taken some time to process and heal, but I wanted to share that, of course, I am still healing, so please do be gentle with any replies or comments. Thank you. When it started, they told me it can be normal, nothing to worry about, just wait and watch. Worry rose up inside of me like a weed had sprouted and grew throughout my body until I was totally consumed. I wanted to believe for a miracle, but truthfully, I've been here before. I even told the doctor that I'm on the worst side of every statistic. I kept Googling anyways. I needed the information, all of it. I wanted the facts. I read online that once you hear a baby's heartbeat, the chance of miscarriage drops to only 10%. I also read a medical study that said HCG levels can be low, only 35% of what doctors consider normal, and pregnancy can still continue with a full-grown baby at the end. I was crazy nauseous already, so nothing to worry about, right? Blood ran red on the toilet paper, but I tried to picture the little flickering light on the ultrasound machine. We already saw your heartbeat. 10% chance, I told myself. If I could cling to this image, maybe I could cling to this baby too. I fell to my knees crying and praying, I want this baby, God. I want this one. It's funny how the world goes on without you when you're in trauma. To me, time was frozen. Every time I had a moment where my emotions caught up with me, tears and prayers tangled up and rolled out. Belief welled up inside of me with audacious hope. It's going to be okay. It has to be. But I've prayed these prayers before and watched my prayers come tumbling back down as if they rattled against the walls of heaven just to be kicked back down to me, unheard and ignored. My eyes were swollen, my prayer journal worn. I was at war inside, but to everyone else, it was spring. There were flowers blooming outside. Our neighborhood had the stench of fresh mulch, and people all soaked in the sun. The birds were chirping and bees were buzzing, and our next-door neighbor was planting a garden. I was huddled inside in sweatpants, clutching my womb and begging in prayer with every tear and whisper. I needed an answer. I needed clarity. I was tired of Googling again and again and searching for hope. My care team thought I was dehydrated, common with my particular brand of high-risk pregnancy. I sat with an IV pouring into me, letting worship music in my ears, begging God, please let us see this miracle. I've said this before and I'll say it again. People don't have to tell you bad news. It just fills the room. We'd taken multiple trips to the hospital. News wasn't certain yet, but it wasn't good. At our final ultrasound, I tried to cling to hope. Just like a few weeks before, I whispered Jesus as I clung to my husband's hand as if I could squeeze every fresh ounce of hope from him into the room. I didn't watch the screen. I watched a stranger's face instead, because people's faces can tell you their feelings even when they can't name them for themselves. In an instant, I watched a stranger's face change, and immediately, I knew. My baby was there on the screen, but no one let out a sigh of relief. There was no motion, no flicker. Not this time. A collective breath was held, and after telling me my baby had no heartbeat, she left in a hurry. I could see her pain in telling me. She said she was giving me space, but I think she was trying to escape my grief. I don't blame her. Tears were already streaming down my cheeks while blood continued to stain the sheet underneath me. The doctor came in and I told him, I'm on the wrong side of every statistic. Again. His face told me he didn't know how to respond to that. I don't blame him. I didn't mean for it to be sad. In that moment, to me, it was a simple fact. The kind of thing you don't want to be true, but it is. When they sent the final ultrasound report the next day, it stated that I had another high-risk pregnancy. A baby whose heartbeat went silent just one day after the day we had first saw that little light dance around inside of me on the screen while the ultrasound techs rejoiced and everyone in the room celebrated with me. My miracle. After our first ultrasound, our miracle heartbeat, our miracle baby, I changed my phone screen to scripture to remind me God gives good gifts. Surely he wouldn't take this one away. But now, with what feels like unending grief, I confess I joined another club I never wanted to be in. My baby passed away in my womb. We drove home in tears and agony. We got my favorite ice cream. When we parked, I yelled, "Let me out," to my husband driving. Then I puked in the bushes. Maybe my HCG is still high enough that I have morning sickness, or maybe it's grief. I can't let go of the idea that I'm carrying death around inside of me. "I think it's beautiful," my husband said, "what you're doing," gesturing to my womb. I felt like I was going to be sick again. And I couldn't shake the thought of all the people who insisted after my son blew a hole in his lungs with his first breath that my next pregnancy and my next birth would redeem that one. I know they were just trying to make themselves feel better, but it definitely makes me feel worse. Like there is something wrong with me, because what could be worse than this? My trauma stats seem to keep stacking on top of each other. High-risk pregnancy, undiagnosed and untreated at the time, over 24 hours of unmedicated labor followed by an emergency C-section, a NICU baby, postpartum depression. When I finally dared to hope again, another high-risk pregnancy, a fleeting heartbeat, a lost baby's life. In the doctor's office, he handed me tissues saying, "It isn't your fault." But I had already pointed my finger at myself. If I didn't point it at me, I had to point it at God, which was worse. My baby is still in my womb as I write this, and it's almost funny, this kind of slow torture I'm enduring, because my HCG levels are still high enough that this morning I puked. I have many friends who go through pregnancies with a little back pain and swollen fingers and toes. I don't know why it is this way for me. Even with a lost baby, I managed to have the worst pregnancy symptoms. And I wonder if maybe my body is just not ready to let go. In my mind, I hear echoes of all the people who have said some version of an excuse or reason to explain away my suffering. Want to know why I think they do this? I think they're uncomfortable that there is no reason. Not a religious one, not a spiritual one, not a medical one. There is none. And why is that so uncomfortable for other people? Because if they can't reason why it happens to me, then they might realize it could happen to them. It could happen to any of us. The winding drive through the rolling hills to the hospital has become a familiar traumatizing experience for me. Once in active labor, once after finally leaving the NICU battered and worn, once praying and crying, feeling blood trickle, and once leaving after being told my baby had passed away inside of me. I tell myself, I just want to be normal. What would it feel like to not have a high-risk pregnancy? To not feel like the thing you want the most causes you the most pain and agony? What would it be like for people to not suggest that you need more faith, hope, and prayers in response to the hard stories you didn't choose to live, but you have to tell? Maybe it's time to stop trying. I confess alone to God. I feel like my hope has betrayed me, and I don't feel like he answers. I just feel lonely, hopeless, apathy. I took a picture of my hand around my belly near our garden beds just a few days before our latest bad news. The little buds were starting to get bigger, and I thought my next photo would be of the massive blooms alongside my blooming pregnant belly. In the garden, there's a stone that says, "Good things grow here," and it's trapped in the corner of my photo. I walk out to the garden bed, my baby with no heartbeat, still tucked inside my womb. The blood is running thicker now, the doctor said, any day now. I look down at the buds, no blooms. I realize I won't get that second photo, not this year. I see the stone, "Good things grow here," and feel like I'm going to be sick again. So soft you might miss it, I feel the spirit whisper, "It's still true." The sun shifts around our yard through the trees, but all I see are shadows. Why did you give us that one moment of seeing the heartbeat? I wonder at God. Not even really a prayer because I don't expect a response. Why did you do this just to take this life away? I don't get it. I feel betrayed and beloved at the same time. And for some reason, I feel like I trust him. I don't have a reason, but I guess there is a part of me that still thinks he does. I hold my no longer pregnant belly, still full, but not of life. I trust my baby is in heaven now, but I still whisper to the body within my womb, "I'm honored you were here." Thank you so much for taking time to listen. And I just wanted to say, if you can relate to this episode at all, I am so terribly sorry for your loss. Thanks for spending time with me today on Threshold. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it with a friend, subscribe, or leave a review. It all helps so much. And if you're not already part of the community, you can join the conversation by subscribing to my weekly newsletter on Substack, Threshold by mollywilcox.substack.com. Until next time, let's keep finding beauty in the in-between.